Welcome back to the Modise Network. Public Works Minister Patrica de Lille promises to cut costs, hold officials accountable, and champion transparency on tender issues. We had such promises before, but how will she be doing all this? She's the only opposition leader serving in President Cyril Ramaphosa's cabinet, and she joins me now. And welcome, Minister Patrica de Lille.
Thank you, Bratem.
Well, a week of drama, and let me start with the politics first. As a member or leader of an opposition party yourself, what did you make of the developments around Derek Hanekom and the accusation that he's a charlatan because he consulted with the EFF in a bid to oust former President Jacob Zuma? What do you think of that?
But I know that as just part of the playground of politics, that there are always a lot of lobbying. When it comes to voting, you know, parties will lobby each other to ask for their support. This, of course, happened way before I came into Parliament. And I think that if they were discussing these things secretly and now the EFF has blown the whistle on it, then it's between the two parties to sort it out. The EFF must explain themselves and Derek Hanekom must explain themselves. And then it's up to their respective political parties to deal with those issues.
But then it creates the impression, let me stay with this for a moment, that an opposition, opposition party member who has anything to do with the ANC is somewhat captured, which may suggest the same about you as leader of good, for instance.
When I was asked by President Cyril Ramaphosa to serve the nation, I've agreed to do exactly that. When we are in government, we are all there to serve all the people of South Africa. Doesn't matter which and who the people are that voted for the respective parties. But when I started good in December of 2018, I set out on a mission, Bratem, because and my message was this, that if good people do nothing, that's when there's a room for evil and corruption and all of the bad things to triumph in our country. And I set out to mobilize good people that want to see this country succeed. And of course, you know, the election results, within 4 months, we were able to get 70,000 votes. And that's why I'm back in Parliament. And I still believe amongst our communities, amongst all South Africans of all races, class, gender, or whatever, there are good people. And I am there to serve this country on behalf of all the people. So when we talk government business, there are no politics. The problems of our people knows no political affiliation. And I've got my space and I've got my independence to carry out, and I'm led by the 7 key priorities that President Cyril Ramaphosa set for the country. All the commitments that he's made in his State of the Nation address, including the one that he made in February 2018, and that was addressed to the nation. So what remains is for us as ministers to take the direction from those speeches and from the 7 key priorities within government and make sure that it gets implemented, because that is where we are weak when it comes to implementation.
Well, the interesting thing about politics and government is that senior politicians and high-profile personalities like yourself, and I say this respectfully, can make all kinds of promises, can do all the talking that they do, but people look at the results, right, the outcomes of this talk.
Yes.
And then they look at things like what's going on, for instance, at the State Capture Commission. So much information coming out, so many allegations that have been made, yet they do not see anyone being arrested. Now, the good people in the country sit back and wonder, what's the point of being good if it's not going to deliver the results that show that the good people are on the ascendancy and that they're winning against the evil and corruption and criminality that's taking place within the public sector or anywhere else in our society?
Yeah. The good people in our country, for us, it is very good that for the first time these things are aired in public. Before, we never used to know about this thing. So the Zondo Commission, the Machoro Commission, Judge Lex Mpati's Commission, it's airing all of these things. And I know, and I also feel the same. When are we going to act against these people? But then we also have a constitution where we are all equal before the law. So the recommendations and the findings of all of those commissions, we must allow the law to take its course. And because even the people implicated and alleged to be involved, they also have rights in terms of our constitution. But corruption has reached a level in this country where we now find a state of looting. And we must stop corruption because it steals from poor people. The money that could have gone to improve our country, to reconstruct and develop our country, it's been stolen. So I would say to all the good people in this country, we must thank the commissions. We know for the first time what is going on, and we need to give the process a chance. I think the Zondo Commission is going to complete its work by the end of the year. Then Judge Zondo has to go and consider all the sides and all the evidence and all the witnesses that came before him. And we will then get a solution.
Well, you are now part of government, and you're a minister running the Public Works Department. So
yes,
you will have to walk the talk, right? When you got there
yes,
and became minister, you probably were looking around at things and looking at areas where you can improve the efficiency and the performance of the department.
yeah.
What did you find in the department that you think needs to be attended to urgently?
Well, first of all, this department is the custodian on behalf of all South Africans of plus minus 99,000 buildings, plus minus 29,000 pieces of land. And that belongs to the public. And so first of all, the public land and public buildings need to be used, first of all, for the public good. That is why I have just stopped a national tender that wanted to sell off surplus land in Joburg, Cape Town, Bloemfontein, Mthatha, all over the country. Because I said before we can determine that this is surplus, we first have to look at the needs, where the other government departments would like to use some of the buildings or some of the land for service delivery, for human settlements. So that consultation is now taking place within government to first see how we can use the land and buildings for public good. And it's only thereafter, once we've consulted with the communities and NGOs and CBOs, what are their needs? You know, what needed I've already identified is the gender-based violence. There are so many women that are looking for shelters, that have to stay in this abusive relationship because they got nowhere to go. Why can't we look at some of those buildings and say to social development and to the minister in the presidency, we can free up these buildings belonging to the public, belonging to Public Works, and by extension to the public to deal with that scourge. That's the one issue. But also, Tim, corruption it's all over in all government departments. And I think Public Works has built up the image of being the worst culprit amongst government. And you have to look at where corruption starts from. And the first thing is that we've got many tenders at any point in time. So the directive now is that all tenders will be open to the public to come and observe the procedures. When the bid evaluation committee meets, when the bid adjudication, so that people can see what we are doing with their belongings. And it will be open to the public except politicians. Politicians will not be allowed to go in there. And if we can achieve that, already you're going to bring some fairness in. You're going to observe that a company who's just recently being formed, who don't even qualify to do the job, get the job. But we will also be putting a private person from outside to do due diligence of the process right from the beginning. So that is the first start. Just yesterday, I had to go to the public and apologize because we have got more than 2,000 invoices which the department has not paid that are older than 30 days. And in terms of the law, we have to pay within 30 days. So the process that I've started is to start paying those service providers, but at the same time putting a system in that can manage every single contract. But the most important part is we also have put in consequence management now. There will be consequences for people who are failing to comply with the law. Because if there are no consequences, that is where the corruption continues to happen. So those are just two of the issues that I'm currently busy with. I'm also looking at all the public spaces. You know, all the public spaces where people interact with the government, and those public spaces are not in a good shape, whether it's a court or a police station or home affairs. That is the first impression people get about government, that we don't care. Lifts are not working, air conditions are out of order. I have now convened next week to deal with the state of our courts in the country, a meeting with all the court managers and my department to put a plan together to fix the courts. And then we can go to police, and then I can go to home affairs.
Let me interrupt you there for a
yes.
moment, Minister, and ask this question about the timelines, right? Because there are these are the objectives, these are the goals that you've set for yourself. But at what point are we going to see a difference? Let me start first with the invoices that are not being paid on time. When will the service providers see that indeed Public Works has changed under Patrica de Lille?
As from today, I'm getting a report from all the departments at lunchtime how many payments they've made and how many payments they've made by 5 o'clock. And I will put out that amount of payments that we've made and to who we have made it. I will put that out in the public space so that people can actually see that we've started the process of paying. You know, this morning I was on radio and a person called in who's been waiting for 15 years. It was so emotional, and I've contacted the person afterwards, and I'm getting the details now to go and look into that. So we will show on a daily basis how we are working through these more than 2,000 invoices that we have.
And you've also mentioned something about lifestyle audits that you said should be conducted on the officials within the department, and it's something that is being looked at by public administration. So I'm not sure if you're going to use the same standards of the lifestyle audits, but in your case, in your department, how is it going to work?
Well, in my department, it's starting with myself first. We're starting in August. And I will do I will lead by example and do a lifestyle audit. And then we want to do the senior management structure within the department. And we've set a time to conclude this by June 2020 next year. So we are beginning to roll it out. And, you know, people who have gather riches in a way that they are not entitled to, lifestyle audits will definitely expose them. But that is a directive that was given by President Cyril Ramaphosa in his State of the Nation address in 2018 already. So I suppose all departments must now implement that directive.
And brief response from you, consequence management that you mentioned. What is going to happen in the event you find that somebody enriched themselves during the course of their appointment and during the course of the performance of their duties?
We have to follow due course, a legal due course, and so we have to charge that person. We have to produce the evidence. But what I want to do is to speed up disciplinary hearings so it doesn't take 2 years, for instance, while a person is suspended on full pay. And because those people also have rights, including we must also consult with the unions. So you can't just fire a person on the spot. You have to subject that person to due process so that there can be fairness in the system.
Patrica de Lille, thank you very much for talking to us. And that's the Minister of Public Works.
Thank you, brother.
And thank you very much, ma'am. Patrica de Lille talking to us. After the break, we will be bringing you another interview.